1979, Northern Vietnam. Chinese rear bases were supposed to be safe until midnight raids by Vietnamese guerrilla women left nothing but ashes and corpses. On one brutal night, a young Chinese mechanic was captured, and he vanished for 13 years. He was forced into harsh labor deep in the jungle. The war's official records say prisoners never return. So how did one vanish, survive, and escape? On February 17, 1979, Chinese forces surged across the northern border into Vietnam, launching what Beijing called a punitive campaign. Nearly 200,000 troops pressed into the mountains and jungle, advancing along an 800-mile front that twisted through steep valleys and dense forest. The ground was slick with mud, the air heavy with the scent of rot and gunpowder. Roads quickly vanished into tangled foliage, and even the most basic supply lines became a daily struggle. Chinese rear headquarters, set up just miles from the front, bustled with the noise of young, exhausted recruits. Many were barely out of school, called up from Yunnan and Guangxi, handed rifles and uniforms, and sent to manage trucks, carry ammunition, or tend to the wounded. These support camps were crowded, chaotic, and desperately underprepared for the kind of war unfolding around them. Medical tents overflowed, fuel and food ran low. Trucks broke down on muddy tracks, and spare parts were almost impossible to find. The line between safety and danger blurred as the Vietnamese counterattacked, often slipping through the jungle to strike at these supposedly secure rear areas. The border itself offered little protection. In places like Lao Cai, Chao Bang, and Lang Son, the terrain favored those who knew every ridge and ravine. Vietnamese local forces, militia, guerrillas, and regular troops used the landscape to their advantage, setting ambushes and laying mines along supply routes. For the Chinese, every delivery of rations or medicine risked sudden violence. A single mistake, one wrong turn, a moment's inattention could mean disaster. In these rear echelons, the war was not fought with grand maneuvers, but with moments of confusion and terror. The vulnerability of these young, undertrained recruits became a target for Vietnamese tactics honed over decades of fighting in similar terrain. Soft targets multiplied wherever the jungle pressed close, and the struggle to keep men and supplies moving exposed the fragility of the entire campaign. Night brings no safety to the border camps. In the thick jungle beyond the supply lines, Vietnamese guerrilla tactics rely on stealth, speed, and absolute ruthlessness. Among the most feared are the local militia units, many of them women, who have grown up in these mountains and who know every stream and ridge by heart. Their training stretches back years, built on the legacy of earlier wars against the French and the Americans. Armed with AK rifles, grenades, and satchel charges, these women move in small groups, slipping through the darkness to strike at the weakest points in the Chinese rear. Their targets are chosen for maximum destruction. Fuel depots, ammunition stacks, field hospitals, and truck parks are all at risk. In Cao Bang and Lang Son, rear bases erupt in gunfire as guerrillas ignite fuel drums and toss explosives into crowded tents. Chinese support troops, many just teenagers, scramble for cover. But the raiders do not linger. The doctrine is simple: hit hard, vanish before reinforcements arrive, and leave no trace but destruction. Survivors among the Chinese are rare. Those caught outside the wire are gunned down without hesitation. Prisoners are almost never taken. Bodies are left where they fall, a warning to the next shift of supply runners. These women are not a propaganda myth. Photographs from the era show them in uniform, rifles slung over their shoulders, standing in the ruins of burned-out vehicles. Vietnamese state media celebrates their role as defenders of the homeland. But on the ground, their reputation is built on what happens in the shadows: sudden violence, relentless pursuit, and no mercy for the enemy. Stories circulate among Chinese troops of entire squads wiped out in the night, of medics found dead beside their patients, of trucks ambushed and set ablaze. Within this world, the loss of a single soldier is routine, barely a footnote in the chaos. The expectation is clear: anyone captured in a raid will not return. That is why, when rumors begin to spread of one young mechanic vanishing without a trace, with neither body recovered nor name on any prisoner list, it stands out as an anomaly in a war where the rules are written in blood. Huang's first days in the jungle are spent testing every boundary he can find. He tries to run, slipping away at dusk, only to be tackled in the undergrowth before he gets 50 meters from the hut. He shouts for help, hoarse and desperate, until a blow to the mouth silences him. Each attempt ends the same way. He is dragged back, wrists bound with vine, a warning pressed cold against his skin, a knife, a rifle barrel, a hissed threat in a language he barely understands. The forest is a maze of bamboo and slippery roots, every path a dead end for someone who grew up in the city, not the mountains. The women, Ping and Lan, know every shortcut and hiding place. When he stumbles through the brush, he circles back to the same clearing, watched all the while. The bamboo hut is nothing like home. Its walls are patched with old rice sacks and palm leaves, the roof sagging under rain. Huang is forced into a routine. At dawn, he hauls buckets from the nearby stream, his ankles raw from makeshift restraints. He chops wood, repairs the roof, and clears brush for a plot of sweet potatoes. The women carry rifles even as they cook, never letting him out of sight. At night, he is forced to sleep inside, wedged between the door and a pile of sacks, one of them always close enough to grab his arm if he moves. Resistance brings punishment. Refusing orders means a day without food. Talking back earns a slap or a kick. When he tries to barricade himself in the hut, they break down the door and tie him to a post. There is no privacy, no dignity. His old life, his family, his friends, and the familiar sounds of Yunnan fade into the background, replaced by the endless drone of insects and the sharp commands of his captors. Over weeks, the pattern hardens. Huang's efforts to escape become less frequent, his energy drained by work and hunger. The women begin to rely on him for daily chores. He is forced to cook, mend clothing, and tend a small vegetable patch. At night, he is made to share a sleeping mat, the arrangement never a matter of choice. The forest, once a place of terror and hope, becomes a prison with walls made of green. Each failed escape tightens the invisible leash, and the idea of rescue grows more distant with every passing day. In the 13th summer, the forest's silence breaks with a sudden cry. Huang, now lean and sun-browned, hacks at undergrowth, searching for wild yams. He's learned to read the jungle's moods, but the land still hides its dangers. A flash of movement, then pain explodes in his calf. The green pit viper, common in these border hills, vanishes into the brush. Blood wells up around two neat punctures. Panic surges, he staggers, calling out, but the world blurs as venom sears his nerves. Ping finds him collapsed, skin clammy, breath ragged. She drags him back to the hut, shouting for Lan. The women work in silence, a tight bandage above the bite, a knife to draw blood, cold compresses from the stream. There's no anti-venom. Night falls. Huang drifts in and out of fevered dreams. Ping sits by him, wiping sweat from his brow, forcing water between his lips. For days he hovers at the edge of death. Hunger and thirst gnaw at him. Ping's voice, once only commands, now soothes and pleads. She feeds him broth, sings old songs in a dialect he barely understands. In these hours, the balance of power tilts. For the first time, his survival depends on her care, not her threats. The lines between captor and captive blur, necessity forging a bond neither chose. When strength returns, Huang finds himself changed. The urge to escape burns hotter than ever. but guilt and confusion tangle his thoughts. Ping's touch lingers on his skin. Lon watches, silent and distant, rifle always close. Months pass. The forest thickens with summer rain. One morning, while gathering wood, Huang stumbles on a glass bottle washed down by the swollen stream. The label is in Chinese. He turns it over in his hands, heart pounding. Somewhere upstream, civilization must be near. That night, as the women sleep, he packs a handful of dried roots and slips into the darkness. Every step is agony, but adrenaline drives him forward. The jungle seems endless. He moves toward the sound of distant water, then the faintest echo of a truck horn. At dawn, he breaks through a stand of bamboo and sees, across a narrow river, the faded marker stones of the Chinese border. Behind him, the forest stirs, but no voices follow. Huang wades into the current, clutching the bottle. 13 years lost to captivity, he crosses back home, haunted by the faces he leaves behind in the jungle's green shadows. Legends like these echo because war still obscures truth, leaving trauma, silence, and unanswered questions on all sides. Today, thousands remain unaccounted for from conflicts worldwide. Until every story is verified or laid to rest, the human cost of war keeps unfolding. What would you want history to remember?